And we are live. Welcome to the show, everyone. It's another terrific Tuesday. I often joke that it's sometimes maybe a good Taco Tuesday, but every day is good for tacos, as we've already agreed upon. And so welcome to the show, folks. Wherever you may be viewing from, we've already solidified that we've got a worldwide audience here at VodPod Media, here in the Maximo Show. Every Tuesday night, we are live. Come check us out. Follow, like, subscribe, comment, share. Get out to us because we're celebrating Heritage Month as well. And so we call it Heritage Month because we're not going to get into, hey, we identify as this. Everybody can identify how they want. So let me ask you, what are your thoughts on Heritage Month? And give it to us real.
Yeah. No, I'm going to be honest, right? I don't necessarily, I just think I think of it as Heritage Year.
Yeah.
I celebrate all year long, right? I celebrate not just myself, but other cultures by going to their events, eating their food. I don't know. All these months that are set aside, I'm like, we only get a month? Like, that's BS.
Well, the good thing about us is we get 30 days that separates into 2 months. September 15th to October 15th. So yay, we get 2 months.
Yeah. So I don't know. I don't, sometimes I'll go to events, but I don't know. I'm just like a year-long proud of.
We live the heritage 24/7, 365.
And like you said, we got the tacos here. Taco Tuesday is every day.
That's right. So if you're not from San Antonio, come down here and get some tacos and join our show. Join this right now because we've got the real Jovanna in the house, Jovanna Lopez. Jovanna, what's up, girl? How you doing?
Good.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Well, absolutely. You know, we had to get you on because you're just, other than being fabulous, you've got a lot to say. And so welcome to the show. And so what's on your mind tonight? How you feeling?
I'm feeling good. I am excited for this fall season. I'm more here as myself, but I talk a lot about my job, right? I work at a farm, Garcia Street Urban Farm on the east side off of West Commerce and Garcia. I'm excited because we got Dia de los Muertos flowers that about to open up and bloom. Like, that's like one of my things right now. I'm like excited. Yeah,
so we got to give a shout out to all the farmers worldwide tending the lands. You know, my people, they originated from Texas, from Mexico, and traveled up to Michigan.
Same.
And your family's from Michigan? They were in Michigan as well?
I have family in Michigan, but everybody worked farmland.
Yeah.
And we have family that ended up in Michigan.
Absolutely. So my family ended up staying there. Many people ask, well, how did you get up to Michigan? It's because they're unaware of how our people travel to tend the land. So much respect because we're talking about hard work. And I've known you for some hard work as well, girl. You came in here and I could feel your energy already. You know, like you had just got done. So you had a long day or what? Would you been out there farming?
And we weren't even outside today. We were in the office, which is just as like mentally exhausting. And it's funny because you told me be camera ready. I was like, man, I'm just going to go in my overalls. And I was like, you know what? Nobody sees me dressed up anymore. I'm going to just come in like I came out, you know, like I was going out or something. But no, we didn't work outside today. We worked in the office.
Good. So I want to get into the Dia de los Muertos flowers in just a bit. But talk to us a little bit briefly about your background. Introduce yourself to our audience. You know, give any shout outs you may like to do. Let's talk there.
Okay. So I'm Jovanna Lopez. I was born and raised here in San Antonio. I come from farm working families, right? Both sides. Worked on farms growing up. I do have family in Mexico, Monterrey, Saltillo, but a lot of my family has been here for a while, right? And so I grew up around people growing things all the time, especially my abuelita and my abuelito. They were hardcore about growing so many things. And I did not get into food advocacy or any of that until I started doing AmeriCorps. And I did AmeriCorps, it was City Year in New York City. I worked specifically in Queens. I worked in Queensbridge, and if you know Queensbridge, that's where Nas is from. So it was fun, right, to work in a community where they knew him, they knew his family, and so I connected to a lot of really great people in that space, and so I started connecting to people that were growing in small spaces in New York, and so from that point, like, I ended up back here, and I started growing again in my backyard, and it just, like, it's crazy, right? Like how it went from space to growing in my backyard in San Antonio again, to starting a community garden in my neighborhood. From there, working on a school farm, and then now I ended up where I'm at here today, managing a farm with my co-farmers.
Yeah. And every day you're putting in hard work. So tell us briefly as well, because we're just going to bounce around. Tell us about the Dia de los Muertos flowers that you all are blooming. I mean, you talked about this, and this is exciting because we know this is a part of it too, right? We have this big event, right? This cultural tradition that's coming up here. You all are preparing many of these flowers that people will purchase and display on altares and everything. So tell us about that.
Yeah, so this is our third season, right? And it's been a learning curve, all of us together, right? None of us have ever grown them to the production amount that we do now. We are excited because this year I think we figured out the formula to grow more, grow them healthier. And I won't get too technical about farming terms, but like where we are on that land, it's very windy. And so what happens with plants is that the wind tends to beat them up, right? And so plants, in order to protect themselves, will grow shorter to try to keep themselves from flopping in the wind. And so we figured it out. We do cover crops now. We're blocking wind. And if you see our flowers, they're going to be beautiful and long stemmed. And so we're excited, not just for that, but we're doing the Monarch Festival. I know we're going to be donating flowers to them. There are a few artistas that are going to be setting up murals for people that were working in theater that are no longer with us anymore. Yeah. We just have a lot of different organizations. The Yanawana Herbolarios, we do community harvests with them every other week in the fall, where they come and harvest marigolds, cempasúchil, however you might know them. So there's just a lot of things. It's my favorite season. My favorite growing season is the fall.
Yeah, we're getting ready for the weather shifting as well. Talk to us a little bit about the climate and how that's affected. Because, we've got, I take it you seem passionate about social justice. Right. Just, me knowing you, you're fiery. You came in here with some energy today, some good energy. But, we're gearing up for an election as well this fall. And I know many of people through today's National Voter Registration Day. So we're talking about, getting out there and getting people registered. Some people are like, nah, I'm okay. I'd rather not talk about it. But, one thing that's always been on the ballot is climate justice. And let's talk about this summer we just got done having. Today, hot as hell.
Yeah. And this summer was crazy, right? What was it, like 50 days of 100 degrees or something insane like that? And we worked out there, right? But we were working from like 7 a.m. to 10:30 a.m. 10:30 a.m. was the absolute...
Because it was too hot.
Get your ass inside in the air conditioning or you're going to, have a heat stroke. The heat brought on a lot of challenges, right? Because even in the summer, we start our fall seeds starting in July. A lot of our flowers and vegetables we start in July. And so we had a lot of germination issues because of how hot it was. It was challenging, to say the least. We are always talking about the weather. It's important to know your weather, right? We talk about it every Monday at our meetings. But then on a daily basis, we're like, damn, like it is so fucking hot out here.
It was hot.
How are we going to continue to grow this way, right? And I don't know what the answer is, other than I know a lot of answers to it, right? Like you said, I came in with a lot of energy because there's just so many things that just grind my gears. And I'm not going to sit here and tell you to recycle, right? Because recycling even has its own like carbon footprint. But what I will tell you is, if you are not good to not just the land that you're living on, but like, let's say, my biggest thing is the river, right? I love the river. I am a woman of the water, and the river is my space to connect with the earth, right? I know y'all are out there. I know y'all are listening, and there's some of y'all that leave your trash behind.
Oh, yeah.
And for me, I'm always like, do you not want to preserve this space for not just yourself, but other generations moving forward? And by doing that, pick up your fucking trash. Yeah. Like, I think we just think that these spaces are there for us and that's it. And we don't appreciate that.
No, they're not thinking about tomorrow. The other aspect of it, and we're going to jump around. We're moving quickly here to transition to a variety, because we got a lot to talk about. I'm so happy that you're here. This probably ain't going to be the only time. We're going to have you back next week and the week after that.
Be here for hours.
Exactly. But some people that didn't have the option to stop working between 7:30 and 10:30 were a lot of those migrant workers out there busting their ass in the heat for people that are paying them pennies on the dollar to pick our crops so people can just go and get their vegetables and get their food at the grocery store. Yep. You know, and I don't know if you want to share anything on that. There's been, you know, Guyland has told me, and many people have asked me, hey, what do you think about, you know, these migrant workers that are getting shipped up, or these immigrants that are getting shipped up to, was it Martha's Vineyard or something like that? I try not to pay attention to mainstream media, but, you know, these things are happening.
It's hard to not pay attention to that. But no, we always are reminded how lucky we are as the farmers that we are, right? Because we're more educational. We're not out there picking people's food necessarily. To some extent we are, but not the way migrants do, right? And they don't get breaks, and they work long hours. And not only that, the housing that they have to live in. I cannot remember the name of the documentary that I watched, but anything you might look up about it that talks about the housing that they're given, it's just like dilapidated.
Oh no, it's not even housing. Yeah, it's sheds.
Awful.
Yeah.
Awful, right? And then you think about the diets that they have because they don't get much of a break. They can't go to the bathroom sometimes. There's women that talk about the fact that they don't get a break, and if it's their time of the month, they're not able to, like, they just have to be there like that, right? And so we don't even stop to think about that aspect of where our food comes from. The people that are picking it are, I mean, I know that they're trying to support their families and their countries, but man, it's just, why don't we treat them better?
No, absolutely. And we're on the same page. And my biggest gripe with the quote unquote Heritage Month is these performative acts that these companies play and say, we value these people. We love the Hispanic culture. But when it comes nut cracking time, when it comes down to providing our people with healthcare, giving our people access to healthy, nutritious foods, you know, actually giving, having accessible healthcare, things of that nature, where are they at then? Because those are the people that need it as well, right? Where are they at advocating for these workers other than, you know, saying that this is going to be the price of your food, right? Or this is going to be just how it is, right? I mean, my thing is we as a people have to look at disruption rather than participation.
Yes.
It's one thing just to say, yeah, we value Hispanic culture. What about when people are trying to break out of cycles of destruction and these cycles of despair, right? We've talked about some of the health issues that our people have, which is all related to this.
Absolutely. And you look at, it's called Hunger in America. It was filmed in 1968. And we did a feature of it at the Guadalupe Theater when I was doing the People's Night Market. And it shows not just Latinos, but it also shows Black community, white community. And it talks about, what do you call it? Food. Wow, I'm blanking out. It talks about like supplemental food that the government is giving, right? And I'll get into another thing that we did, but they're talking about the food they're giving them and giving indigenous communities flour. And then they talk about the diseases that are affecting them because of all this free shit they're giving people, right? But it's flour heavy, it's butter, it's sugar heavy. And you think about all the diabetic issues that happen, like in this town, I think about it, right? I can't think about it.
Oh my gosh.
Other than here, because this is the space I'm at now. But I watched that video and I thought to myself, holy shit, that's what's happening here. Like, and you know, granted, I love Tex-Mex food, but man, like we don't realize how much flour is involved in it, how that affects us and our health. It does. I struggle with it every day, right? Like I am very conscious of the things that I eat, but there's days that I'm like, I need that taco. I need a flour tortilla.
I think about the quote by, gosh, I'm blanking on his name too, but he said to be a Black person and to be conscious is to be in a constant state of rage.
Frederick Douglass?
No, it wasn't Frederick Douglass. Guyland, fact check that for me.
Yeah,
to be conscious and to be Black is to be in a constant state of rage. And it's the same way for us, man, because you're talking about how do we struggle? How do we balance, you know, these things, right? How do we look to do things differently, right? Breaking cycles and stuff. You know, I feel like sometimes when I'm having these conversations amongst my people, they're looking at me like I got 16 heads because they're like, man, who is this guy? What's he talking about this stuff for, right? The masses of our people aren't really having these conversations.
Well, they're just trying to keep everyone fed.
Yeah.
And the lights on, right?
They're just looking to get by.
During the pandemic, myself and a bunch of other organizations and community advocates, well, first of all, my friend Beth Keel connected me with the USDA, right? And they were doing those food boxes.
Yeah.
And so I don't know how we did it. I don't know, by the grace of the creator, or I don't know. We pushed out almost 3 million boxes of food, right? During the pandemic, when people were struggling to make ends meet, struggling to pay their bills, their kids were at home, kids were eating through their refrigerator, right? But again, I look at some of the food that was in there, and it was just like, I just struggle because it's like, yes, you're giving these handouts to everybody. Not handouts, I'm sorry, that's the wrong word. But you're giving this free food to people, right? But you're also not considering like the health issues that they might have.
Absolutely.
Like you just think, I'm going to push this box in their face and hope that they can figure it out. Right?
Yeah, it's short term anyway.
Right.
I mean, yeah.
And I think there's still things that happen like that, not just here, but in other places throughout the country where people want to put free food in front of people and then expect them to do something with it. And what you don't realize is there's like an educational aspect that's missing.
Yeah.
People don't know how to cook vegetables sometimes. Think about anybody you have as a relative that eats greens. I didn't grow up eating greens. The greenest thing I ate was nopalitos.
Yeah.
Right? That was what I ate growing up that was green at my grandparents' house. But even now at the farm, right, we try to grow culturally appropriate things, right? Like we will grow tomatoes, onions, we do collards, we do mustards, we do turnips. We're very conscious of what we're growing for Black and brown communities there, right? But we also remember that there's people that have been disconnected by their cultural foods. They have been disconnected by, vegetables. We all have. I had to learn how to eat vegetables within my 20s because I was dealing with so many health issues and being overweight. And I still struggle with that now, but I know the difference, right? It's just about like, you're a person that works out. You have to like have some kind of self, why am I blanking on the word? You have to,
some discipline. I know what you're saying.
Discipline,
yeah.
right? And it's hard sometimes.
It is hard
to be in a space and a place that for me is very stressful. I think there's a lot of like generational trauma that exists in this place, right?
It's sad.
And I see it within myself and within family members and within other people that I talk to, and that contributes. Not just the food that we're eating, but mental shit contributes.
It's all related.
Health,
it's
right?
all intertwined. James Baldwin is the name of the inimitable James Baldwin, author, poet. Let's get into a little bit about urban farming.
Sure.
Because urban farming is stuff that happens in LA. It happens here, right? What exactly is it? How do people start something like this? How can they get involved?
So starting your own space is extremely hard. It's money is a big component of this, right? And I'll get into a little bit of the history of that space that we're at now and what it took to fund it. But one of the things that one of my coworkers has been working really hard with the UDC, which is the Unified Development Code in San Antonio, is she's been working to change code, right? Because there were no codes that existed to build urban farms. And so all the codes that existed within the development code were for developers only, right? And so they were trying to charge us, and they did. They charged us what they would have charged somebody who was going to build like a 72 apartment complex, right? To plat the land, to put in the water, to put a meter in. So we were just very antiquated in this town, right? No one had any kind of space like it other than, I don't know, maybe on the west side. I can't think of the idea school, but that's where I work too. We all worked there together. That was the only other place that existed like it. And so the city was kind of lost as to how they could not charge us those fees, but they did anyway, right? And so it's super hard. My point is, it's really hard to build a space like we have because there's so many things that need to be changed within the code. Some things have already been changed thanks to people that have been sitting there talking to them. But for me, building this urban farm for me has been, I think, a way to teach one another how to take back our land, how to grow within our space, even if it's not a lot, right? We never say that we're feeding everybody, we're supplementing and we're educating them. Because for me, it's more important to teach everybody how to grow than to feed them.
Sure.
It is. Like, I can't get behind this whole, like, I'm feeding everybody or we're feeding the city. It's like, no. Like, I'm all about let's teach people how to do this, because when the time comes that we don't have access to a grocery store, right? The pandemic showed us
that showed everybody
that fucking system is weak.
Yeah.
That it could collapse at any moment, right? And it was a part of the reason we had those food boxes and we pushed them out, because there were so many people reaching out to us for food. They couldn't get through the food bank lines. That was like
that was crazy.
Insane, right? And so, I don't know, for me, building this space specifically has taught me that it's like, no, I can't feed everybody. No, I'm not feeding the city. I am essentially building a space to empower others to learn how to do it, whether it's in a pot on their balcony or in their backyard, right? And so one of the projects we're working on now is with AME, which is the African American Methodist Episcopal Church. They have acquired about almost $2.5 million from Congressman Cuellar. And so we just launched their first garden at the AME Emmanuel Church on the east side. And for them, they worked with us through the pandemic, and they were really bothered by the fact that there was no access to anything, that they were having to help all of their congregates and having to help the communities that they served wherever their churches were. And so they're like, we really want y'all to build us gardens so that we can get money to hire people, to educate the community, to get these people in these different neighborhoods to come and put their hands in the soil, whether it helps their mental health or helps them change something that they eat, right? And so now, and to me, that's a part of like not going with the status quo, but like, wait, is that what I'm trying to say to you? For me, it's about taking back, right? And so what I feel that we're doing along with that church is we are using this land that's sitting there with nothing on it, and now they're going to grow, right? We're going to build 10 more gardens for them at 10 more churches, and we're hoping, just to continue to collaborate with them, right? And to continue to encourage more organizations and even community members to build spaces like that, right?
Yeah.
And to learn from us. And it doesn't mean that you're going to be growing as much as we are, but even if you built a small space, you can totally supplement what you have already.
Absolutely. So we got some live comments coming in. Destiny Hernandez, hi Destiny, says, yes, pick up your effing trash. That's so true. Come on now, folks. What are you doing? Stop being unorganized. Stop being trashy, so to speak. Stop living. We've got Destiny chiming in. You're hitting it all on the head, Jovanna. Thank you so much. So hi, Destiny. We'll see you later. The other question I have for you is talk to me a little bit about your food advocacy style of leadership, right? You know, we talked about some things of difference of opinion and philosophies and how some of this work gets done and how people are respecting and farming the land, because that's important too, right? It's not just digging up the dirt, right? And planting, seeds and things of that nature, right? Talk to me a little bit about what that looks like.
I think the way that I approach food advocacy is, honestly, I talk to a lot of people, right? Throughout the communities that we serve, I'm always talking to somebody, and that person always connects you to someone else that might need something, or you connect them to a resource, and it's always food most of the time, right? And so what I've learned is that you're not going to do it via social media. You're not going to do it via a text. To me, it's always running into somebody, and they're always telling you like, oh, so-and-so, they don't get paid until the 1st, and it's the 24th, and they're running out of food, and how can we like connect with them? And so sometimes I found myself running over to that person's house and saying, hey, what do you need? Like, how do you, and there's so many people in this town too. Like, I love people that do mutual aid on their own within groups or by themselves, whether it's a community pantry or within a group. I am always just in admiration of them, right? Because they're just not depending on a government, they're not depending on anyone, but community members to come together and help each other, right? And I know that the organization I work for is a state-funded organization, but I still try really hard to put the community aspect in there, right? Where I sometimes forget in that space that we are run by a state-funded organization, but I just think it's just all in how we create that space, right? And how we make that space just feel, safe and comfortable and welcoming. I don't know. Does that answer your question?
I think it is, though. Okay. All right. I think y'all are doing that, right?
We are.
You all have regular people that come to the farm and come and pitch in and volunteer and take food and all that stuff, right?
Yep.
Donate. What else? What else do they do there?
People sometimes will come to the markets and help.
Okay.
We don't typically do bouquets. We'll do like a flower bar where people can just pick. But if somebody wants to come and volunteer and help make bouquets for people that are buying. That's always an option. People kind of stand by the produce to help people figure out what they want to pick, or if they don't know what something is, they'll explain it to them, which we find that a lot. And I think, again, it goes back to the whole putting vegetables in front of people. I'm sorry, if you put a vegetable in front of people, they're not always going to eat it. They're just not, right? And so we need people there to talk to one another. So, yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about food sovereignty. Your friend, the gangster gardener, as they say, which is fun. I think that's cool, right? I mean, did he name himself that?
I don't even know where that originated from. Honestly, I don't know. I just see him as Ron.
Yeah, he seems. I don't know him though, but you know him.
Yeah. I've never worked with him per se, doing any kind of project. But anytime I'm in LA, I go visit. I go check out his space. Argue with him sometimes because that's what we do best. We bump heads, and just kind of catch up with him and find out what he's up to. Right? He's always up to something. Always hustling. Always like right now. I think he's got a clothing line with the Gap.
Yeah, we were looking at that.
10%, Ron. I just plugged you. So which is really cool, right? So he's always got something. He's always hustling, and I appreciate that about him, right? And it teaches me a lot about, like, he always tells me, make sure people are paying you for your work. You charge them your worth. You do not let them lowball you, right? But yeah, he's one person amongst many people throughout the country that I really admire, and I admire the work they do. There's Stockton Community Farm in Stockton, California. There's a few women there, right, that run that farm and do weekly food bags that they give out to community. And then who else am I thinking about? Oh, Black Thumb Farms up in the valley in California too. We have Farm Share in Austin, who we love because they educate farmers.
Yeah.
They're always pushing out farmers every season, people learning how to grow, and so we love them. They come through every once in a while to tour our space.
Nice. And I heard the quote from Ron that said, "A seed is infinite." Mm-hmm. And I thought that was deep. Just the growth and what can come from a seed, a single seed. And it's like that too when you speak about these sort of things, right? You never should underestimate the importance of planting a seed. There's somebody watching this right now that could be influenced about how they can make different lifestyle changes, how they can make different choices, how they can, make a shift in their life to do something different. In a system and culture of capitalism, food becomes less of a human right and more of a commodity.
Yeah, absolutely.
And access to fresh and healthy foods is something that many of our people don't have. Impoverished communities have to purchase food that they can afford and struggling to get by. That we talked about, the masses of our people are struggling to get by. We've talked about over this last year, right? The economy, inflation, the value of the dollar, right? What that can even get you at a store, a shelf. You talked about the pandemic. What happened when we had that freeze? We had this another thing. I thought it was the end of days.
Oh yeah.
Because people were like, okay, what's going on? Like, when am I going to get some food at? That sort of thing. So, that's a tip of the iceberg. Again, there's a lot that I just talked about, but give me your take, because I know you don't like the word food desert, and you don't talk to me about it.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many reasons, right? And I've read up. There's other people that have that opinion too, and there's somebody that actually corrected me about it at one point too. They're like, "Stop saying that," and I'm like, "You're right, right? Like, deserts are not these like fallow, like nutrition deficient spaces at all. If you've ever been to a desert, like one of my favorite deserts or areas is the Saguaro National Park. It's such a beautiful space, right? And when it's hot, yeah, it's dry. It looks like nothing is alive. But man, if it gets a little rain or any kind of moisture, man, the amount of life in that space is magical, right? So I think we have to rethink what these spaces are, right? And like the word food apartheid, or the phrase food apartheid, I've looked it up, I've like researched things on it, and it just makes so much more sense, right? Because that's when we start to talk about like how our systems, like there's a lot of racial inequities within our systems, right? And not just food system, you talk about everything. The criminal system, you talk about everything, medical, housing, everything, redlining, like it's all over the place, right?
Yeah.
And so if you attached apartheid to a lot of other things, it just makes more sense to me. Attaching desert, I mean, food swamp, maybe, but even food swamps to me are full of nutrition, right? For different animals. Like we can go so deep into this, and I'm not going to get too far into it, but I just think we have to look at our communities in a different way, like through different lenses, right? Because I think that term food desert came from a white, mind frame, right? And it's not to say that there are not white folks out there that are not struggling or dealing with food insecurity, right? That's not what I mean at all. But I just think that food insecurity is really, really, really like, it's just so many layers. And we really have to think about every single part of it, every aspect of it. It's not black or white.
Yeah, a lot of the stuff that we're touching on is complex. Even with the choices we make with drinking, right? The choices that we make when we want to go eat. And now I think that the majority of the people that are watching this, maybe from an iPhone or a laptop, have a good idea and have a opportunity to make choices, right? We are privileged in that way, through the system of capitalism. Now, people watching this are going to say, Maximo, why are you talking about capitalism? Listen, we can critique anything we want. We do that all the time, and we should be critical. We should have these conversations, because, there are choices, and there are, you talked about, elected officials, right? They make choices on the regular as well with their initiatives and what they could focus on. You talked about grants that get allowed or allocated in particular districts and zones that go towards these initiatives, which is important, right? We should be teaching our kids and our youth how to farm. Yep. Right? We should be teaching them how to tend the land, right? Let's talk about your backyard, right? What type of soil do you have here, right? What type of grass? How do you grow? What type of foods will grow in this climate? Things of that nature. And that's stuff that our kids are not getting. That education isn't happening.
Nope.
Not in the schools at least, maybe through grants and efforts through people like yourself. But from the masses of our people, I mean, come on, they're not studying this.
No, everybody calls it dirt, right?
Yeah.
We don't ever... I feel like I cringe every time I hear someone call it dirt. I'm like, it's soil. Like, it is soil. Please stop calling it dirt. You make it seem like it's nothing, right? There's nothing to it. And in reality, it's soil, right? There's a lot of life in it. And one of my coworkers, she is a soil scientist, right? And so I love listening to her talk about soil because it's just so fascinating to know what's in soil, right? Like, what is the one fact she tells people all the time? She just did it this week, that a teaspoon of soil has like a 50 billion microbes in it, right? There's so much life in a teaspoon of soil, and we don't even think about that, right? And kids are not being taught that. And so, I don't know. There's just, I know some people don't want to get in the dirt. I have friends that are like, girl, I only come over here to help you because I love you, but I don't like gardening, or I don't like waiting for things to grow, right? And I appreciate the honesty, but we got to do it. Yeah. Because there might be a time in our lifetime where there is no HEB. Yeah. Or there is no barbacoa shop, or, like we might have to do what our parents, our ancestors did, and that's grow something in the backyard to supplement what you can't afford to feed your family. Yeah. Like we're not that far away from that. We haven't been. Like it was what? I think about like my grandparents' backyard garden. I mean, 60 years ago, 70? To me, that wasn't a long time ago. No. Like you think about the 90s, and I cringe because I forget how old I am. Sometimes I still think I'm 25. And I'm thinking, holy shit, the 90s was like how long ago? So I don't know. I think reconnecting, everyone should find a way to reconnect with nature, even if you hate bugs, even if you want to get dirty. You can sit in it if it means sitting under a tree at a park. I think that we are all so disconnected from that. It's too bad. But again, the masses of our people are just trying to get by. You've got to be at work. We're on this thing. You've got to be on the phone, right? Yeah. You've got to hustle, right? You've got to go. You got doctor's appointment. You got to go pick up the kids. And it's a rat race for the majority of people, which gets them further and further disconnected. I remember I was studying in Australia, and I got connected with some indigenous fam out there. And I was telling, a lady out there, and I was like, you need to come visit the States. They called them the States. You need to come visit the States. She goes, well, I want to be in land. I want to go see some mountains. I don't want to go see no buildings. Mm-hmm. And I thought that was interesting. Like,
she didn't want to come inside of a building. She wanted to be with the land. And I'm like, okay, and I find like that our people, our indigenous people have that true connected, sort of pull to the earth and understanding the moon and the stars and the earth and the river and the water, right? Like you were hinting to. Mm-hmm. Why do you think that is? I know that's kind of a deep question.
It's a very deep question, right? Like I'll also say, like, I always talk to one of my friends because he is indigenous. He knows, he grew up ceremony. I did not grow up that way, right? But I grew up doing things that I didn't understand as that, right? With my grandparents, like the way we tended the land, all of that. So I grew up with that appreciation. I grew up running around outside, like playing with ants, playing with whatever, right? The little, what are they called? Dust lions, where they make that little cone where the ants fall in and they eat them. Like there's so many things that I recall as a child by being outside. But I just think we have that connection.
Yeah.
Because I just feel like we were put on earth to steward this land.
It's true.
We were put here to protect it, to manage it. And it's not to say that no one else is allowed to do that, right? Not at all. Like I'm all about everybody coming together to do that. But I think about like indigenous communities, and I think about, have you ever heard of Lila June?
Who?
Lila June.
I don't know.
So she is an indigenous woman that just did her thesis, her PhD, on different agricultural practices of indigenous people, right? And so she traveled all over, like North America. I think she went into Mexico too, probably Central America, maybe South America. And she, and listening to her speak, and I'll send you some of the stuff she speaks on, listening to her speak about the earth was just like, and I've already been connected, right? But in that moment too, she made me realize like, holy shit, like, yes. Like you're speaking what I feel all the time about when I'm outside and I see a butterfly or I see a ladybug or I see a spider eating a bee, like a burrito. Like I just think like what's his name? Like a Rage Against the Machine. They call us the people of the sun, right?
Yeah.
We're just meant to be outside in those spaces. And it's not to keep anyone else outside of it, but I think that that's what we were specifically put here for.
Our people are just good like that. They're sensitive to those things.
Mm-hmm.
They're acutely aware. It's interesting because our people get hated on for a lot of reasons. But, one of the things I've seen, there's a stereotype or there's a, there's a racist joke that our people, are lawn mowers. They'll just mow your lawn. Well, what's wrong with mowing the damn lawn? What's wrong with tending the lawn? What's wrong with taking care of someone's yard? There is a honor that should go along with that. I'll mow your lawn. You're going to have to pay me a few dollars, but I will mow your lawn. I'll put me on record, because and I've mowed my lawn several times and I feel more connected to it. I feel like I want to take care of it. I want it to look nice. I want it to be presentable. I want it to, to grow and to be healthy.
You notice things, right?
Yeah.
When you're out there maintaining it.
Absolutely. The trees, right? And you feel more connected, to the earth. It's a special thing, but switching gears, I want to talk a little bit about food justice, because when we talk food justice, you've got to know that there's food injustice. And not only that, it's how we're using the food as fuel. We've talked about health. I'm a huge health advocate all the way around. Mental health, spiritual health, physical health, mental, all of these things, right? Mindfulness, strengthening your body to be in line with your spiritual self. Now, what you take in your body is how you operate. I tell people all the time, your food is your fuel.
Absolutely.
Now, if our people only have access to processed, unnutritious, foods that are going to make us sick, malnourished, what are we setting ourselves up for? Now, it's not all of our fault, right? It's what our people have access to through certain laws, right? Certain, policies that leave our marginalized communities with very little options.
Right. And you think about like all of the food, I already know maybe I'll end up in a phone call with this person, but I'm not going to say their name, but like our local food providing people here, right, that give free food. I'm not going to say their name because I don't even want to give them airtime. But if you've ever been to a food, they call it a commodities distribution, and you look at what they're giving,
it's
a
not
population that's like ridden by fucking diabetes and heart disease, I'm just always challenged because I'm like, you're this multi-million-dollar organization, and this is what you're giving to poor people. You're killing them, essentially, right? You're not helping them. You're killing them. And I do my best not anymore to knock on that organization, but it's one of the things I always come back to because I see people doing mutual aid within our communities on a very low budget, right? Or they're just asking other community members, hey, pitch in $10 so I can get some groceries for these people, or let me help these, undocumented families with, getting this or that. But I think about these multi-million-dollar companies and how they just don't, I'm just always very shocked at what they think is helping people. Right?
Yeah.
And it's a big injustice to have these organizations that get county funding, state funding, they get federal funding, and yet still all you see at these distributions are cakes and bread and processed shit, right?
Jeez.
Right?
Jeez.
And people, and I don't know if you know this fact, right? I learned it when I was working at the health department. Like, this city has some of the highest amputations.
It does.
From complications from
diabetes.
Like, yeah. Yet we don't, we still feed these large organizations money, but we don't find ways to, like, regulate them and be like, stop fucking giving out those cakes. You figure out a way to put education in this and teach people, not to say that everyone's going to eat veggies, because I get it. Not everyone likes it.
True.
Right?
Yes. And so here's the truth, folks. If you're watching this right now, if you're stuck with us through the show, if you're just chiming in, here's the really, really real, because our shows are not sponsored by these organizations, so they're not feeding us any lines. The reality is our people are already predisposed to coronary heart disease, diabetes, obesity, and several other illnesses like cancer that we should be fighting off, not welcoming through what we intake. It's what we eat and drink. And in some cases, it's other things as well. Now, I'm not going to be the person to tell anybody what to eat. Hey, I respect everybody. We have choice, we have free will, but there are some things that we can do to control our outcomes and to better our living conditions. I hate to see the fact is that many of our people are just looking to get by. When are we going to start thriving, right? How come we go to many of our communities, our people are, rolling down the street in a wheelchair because of an amputation? Yep. Many of our people have that. And listen, I respect everyone. I love everyone, but we're talking about the issues that are really real out there. And we want to see our people not only just survive and get by, but to thrive. And to do that, we've got to have some tough conversations.
Yes.
And it's not all on us. It is to the stakeholders, right? The elected officials, the CEOs of the companies. What are you doing? What are you doing, folks? Like, you got to make some different choices. We've got to work together here. It isn't, and I hate to come off as standoffish, right? But we've got to work together to figure this out. Like, you've got to be on these boards. They got to bring us and to be at the table to talk about how our bodies process these foods.
Oh, yeah.
You talked about some of those vegetables. Those vegetables, some of them are turned straight into sugar.
Yes.
The bread, how does our body metabolize those things? That's extremely important to how we get by. I had a guy that I spoke to, looks probably like me, like our cousin or our brothers. He was addicted to soda. He was addicted to pop. I say pop, I'm from Michigan.
Yeah, of course.
Dude stopped drinking pop, did some moderate exercise, lost 80 pounds just from that alone. And he told me, he said, I was addicted to pop. He said, I was addicted to it. How many of our people are addicted to other things that come along with these sugars? I mean, this food is addicting that our people are on.
No, I agree. I can speak for myself, right? It's a part of the reason I work within, doing food justice, is that I deal with my own form of that. Like I was telling you today, I don't drink soda, right? I do this. And on occasion I will have a soda, but it's rare. You will rarely see me drink a soda. I stick to this stuff. But I struggle with my weight, and I have my entire life. I grew up with, frijoles and nopalitos. My grandmother always made homemade meals, but my mom was a single mom. So my mom was always trying to get the quickest meals she could, right? To just get something in us because she was tired or she had to work a double shift or whatever the case may be. And so that, as a child, affected me into adulthood, right? I've gotten my gallbladder removed, like I am like pre-diabetic. And so it's like a constant struggle to try to maintain my health. And so I can relate to other people out there that are struggling with food. So I'm not just sitting here telling people,
No.
you got to eat vegetables, you got to do this. It's like, I understand your struggle. I do my best to put greens in my body almost every day. I don't know that I'm the healthiest person, but I think I am better off than a lot of people because I've tried. But man, I get it. I get
Absolutely
the struggle. It's hard. You know, like I think I was talking to you about like different exercises, right? Because I got a Peloton and it's just been like a hit or miss thing where I get into moments of like, I don't really want to get on that thing, you know? And then I get to like 2 or 3 months of like riding. But then we don't even talk about, like you were talking about mental health, but stress.
Absolutely.
The amount of, I know that a lot of the weight I have is stress related, right? And people don't realize that when you're not calming yourself or like for me, it's sleep routine, right? If I don't have a sleep routine, I don't sleep well. It affects everything about me, my memory, my health, my weight. And there's just so many things we don't realize that affect us, our weight and our health. And I hope this inspires people that are struggling to look more into it, right? And if you have insurance, that's great. If you don't, there's other ways to be able to like maintain that stuff, right? On an affordable level, right? If you come to our farm, our produce is pretty decent, right? It's cheap. It's not only affordable, but it's also organic.
Yeah.
We do not spray anything, right? But my point is that like I feel the struggle too. So I'm not sitting here
Yeah, we ain't knocking nobody
on a pedestal telling you got to do this and you got to do that. I'm just telling you like make little efforts here and there because I feel you. I hop on and off the workout and eating right wagon all the time.
It's an uphill battle. It's an uphill battle, and the system's stacked against us because on my way over here, I passed a Taco Cabana, I passed a Whataburger, I passed a spaghetti.
Miller's.
Exactly, Bill Miller's, right? And so the masses of our people are looking to get food on the table for Juanito and whomever. So yeah, absolutely. What are they going to do? Because it's tough out here.
Yep.
Absolutely, and especially because you talked about good food costs more money, and the kids don't want to eat cucumbers and the broccolis today, right?
No, I have 2 at home, right? And one of them, she's a little older, so she's a little more like on the like I want to eat better, and she maintains her stuff. But the younger one, she's struggled a lot, and so I get where she's coming from because I was like, I want to eat mac and cheese and chicken nuggets every day too, homegirl. Like, but we can't do that, you know. So I'm totally like I get it, and I even told you when I lived in New York, it was different because I had to walk everywhere.
Yep.
I didn't have a car,
Yep.
right? I could barely afford rent. So I think I was eating like small portions of things because that's what I could afford. So yeah, I was healthy there. I moved back home and all that stuff is so accessible and cheaper, right? Tacos, whatever, with flour tortillas. And yeah, it's hard to exist here and want to be healthy because there's so many options out there to be unhealthy.
Yeah.
And they're accessible to many of us. Not everybody, but man.
My challenge is, again, why is it cheaper to go buy a Big Mac than it is to buy, some healthy fruit? Why is that? Like, why does it got to be that way? Like, why can't, like, gas prices, like, we've changed gas prices, right? They go up and down. Joe Biden comes on the internet, says, yeah, we've knocked a quarter off your gas prices. Well, how about you knock some quarters off our food, too?
Yeah. So I get more apples instead of,
we need to raise our kids off
box of
that.
crackers for snacks, right?
Exactly.
Like, I don't know. I don't know what the answer to that is. I mean, like you said, everything's a commodity. Everything. From what we wear to what we drink, our phones. I don't know what the solution is other than getting people in office that really care about that stuff. And I'm not I don't know, politicians all freak me out to some extent. And I will say that I am rather impressed, and I don't agree with all his other politics, but what Congressman Cuellar did for AME in that project we're doing, I was impressed that he got that much money to build gardens. Like, I was like, okay. Like, when he told me that, I was like, or when the head person from AME told me, I was like, really? Really? Like, he gave you that much money? He's like, yeah. He goes, all I had to do was ask. I'm like, I wish it were that easy with every politician. Because most politicians don't want to give money for that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know. We can go really deep into that, and I don't think I want to.
Not that rabbit hole.
Politics.
We'll
piss
save
me
politics for next week,
Yeah.
folks. So tune in. So let me ask you this though, but because you do seem in this to win it. You're in it to win it. You're here for the long term.
Yeah.
You're not changing up. You're not going to say, well, I'm not having success here. I'm going to transition to something else. Why do you do what you do?
I think because I relate a lot to the people that we serve. I've grown up in, and I wasn't poor per se growing up, right? It was very like working mom. My father was locked away. My grandparents did what they could to help. But I relate to a lot of the stories I hear. And it's not that we didn't have food to eat. We were just always eating shitty food because it was convenient, right? And mom was just trying to feed me. And so I just relate a lot to it. And this kind of work is thankless. If you've got an ego, you're in the wrong line of work because this is not, it shouldn't be shit to fill your ego.
Yeah.
Even though there's people out there, right? There's people out there within this community that we're in that have hardcore egos, and I'm just always very confused by it. I'm just like, okay. But I relate. I don't know. There's no other reason. And the fact that I just really love growing things, right? I think for me, it's my connection to nature, my connection to my community. And just wanting, even if in my lifetime I help 2 people change one thing about what they eat and how they eat or how they take care of their body, to me, that's like success, right?
Yeah.
And maybe they'll pass that on generation to generation, but I don't expect these huge results. But I just want to get people on the train of just being outside and being in the dirt.
Yeah.
And eating better.
Yeah. So can we come out and join you? I mean, how
Always.
can we? So how is there an invite out there to anybody watching or what?
So we are, if you're in San Antonio, if you're just visiting and coming through and you happen to be here on Wednesdays, Wednesday mornings starting next week, we're doing volunteer days from 8 a.m. to noon. And then our markets are 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. on Wednesdays starting October 5th, all the way up until December 7th. We are not going to be there Thanksgiving week, but you'll see us there every Wednesday until then. So yeah, everybody's welcome to come through. You can go, our website is, well, actually, I'm not going to say website because it's complicated to get there. You got to go through the SAC website. And I'm not here representing the farm so much, I'm representing me, but I want you to be able to support the projects that I work on. So the farm is on Instagram and Facebook under Garcia Street Urban Farm. Just follow. I run the social media stuff, so it's usually me you'll talk to or one other person that is a backup. But yeah, that's what we're working on right now. And then we are working with Southwest Workers Union to do a climate justice, community summit at our space. We were having organizations from throughout the country that specialize in climate justice. And so they're showcasing our farm as a space that's doing sustainable practices on October 15th. The time is still pending. I think they want to do it in the evening, but we're just planning for this right now. If you want to come see our space and hear about the history of that space and I guess kind of what we're doing now to preserve the space and like build the soil.
Yeah. So but we can support you as well, though, right?
Yeah.
Aren't you on social media? Can we follow you on social media for knowledge and tips and?
Sure. I haven't been on there as active because we've been very busy at work, but I will start to do more as I start growing in my backyard. I'm under the Real Jovanna. I also have my own I have almost an acre up on like the northwest side of town. And so I'm starting to grow my own stuff. I have a few flowers growing there. I'm going to start to probably grow produce there to probably sell and share with the community around me. But yeah, and then I'm hoping to start doing water plants, like aqua plants. Like that's another thing I've been getting into. I've been really interested in the way plants grow within water. So yeah, you can support me at the Real Jovanna. I post every once in a while, but I'm trying to post more as I start to grow more in my backyard.
Yeah, so we've got some more comments coming in. We've got Joaquin Muerte saying, Jovanna rocks. We need to teach people to grow their own food and to eat mindfully. Absolutely. He also laughs at my talk of pop. I mean, what do people call it? Isn't it only
soda,
pop?
right? Isn't that what people call it here? Soda?
I don't know. I think they're saying it wrong. It's pop.
I mean, that's appropriate for where you're from. One of my really good friends is from Michigan too, and she says pop.
We're at in Michigan.
Is it Lansing?
It is. That's where I'm from.
She's gonna yell at me if it's not Lansing. I can't remember.
Well, who is it? What's her name? I know her.
Oh, she used to live here for a while. She's an artist, Jessica Leek. She's like an abstract artist. She lives in Colorado now. But
well, hi, Jessica Leek, if you're watching.
I don't know if she's watching. She might be working.
Yeah, so we got 5 minutes left, girl. What do you want to talk about? I'm not typically short, but I want to give you your shine, girl. What else? You got to give anybody a shout out or what?
I don't know. Shout out to my sister. And
is she
my
watching?
Niece. Yeah, they're listening right now. Baby D and my nephew, if he's there or he's not running the streets of Santa Monica. He's living the life as a little surfer boy, or I call it a surfer boy because, man, if I could run around Santa Monica as a kid, I would have taken full advantage of that. But shout out to them, my family. I have a bunch of different friends listening. My partner, he's listening too.
Yeah.
He's also the person that I grow with, right? Like that space. And I'll do more shots of that backyard, but it's a magical space. Like It was worth every penny I saved for a down payment for that space, because it's just like I can sit back there, watch the sunset. And it's not, y'all think like it's like land, right? No, it's like in the middle, inside of 410, off of like Ingram and like between Ingram and Culebra, right? So it's in like what used to be the burbs, but it's not anymore. It's just a magical space. I'll take pictures. I'm not going to invite everybody.
You can't invite us to your house yet.
That's my spot. So, I don't know. Shout out to everybody. Shout out to my Garcia Street Farm crew. I don't know if they're listening. They might or might not.
They can watch the restream.
Yeah, they'll watch it all over again. I don't know. I don't know if I want to talk. You said 5 minutes, right?
Yeah, we got a couple minutes left. I just want to make sure that we're getting everything in that you wanted to cover tonight.
So look, I think for anyone, and anyone can do work like this, right? If they have the passion to do it. But I think within your own group and circle of people, I think working with one another, supporting each other, like you can. It's hard, but man, if there's anything you can change, like let's think about soda, for example, right? How many people drink Big Red for breakfast or a Dr. Pepper for breakfast? If they can just change that one habit, right? And I did this a long time ago. I think I was in my mid-20s when I stopped drinking soda every day. If they can change that one thing, I feel like it'll add a few years to their life or more.
There you go.
Right? So it's not even about doing it in a big way. It's about doing it within your own circle and your own community, to be able to help one another just be healthy. I mean, if you do want to live forever, right? I don't know. Some people don't care. They just want to ride it till the wheels fall off. And I can totally appreciate that shit too. Because sometimes I think, man, if I could just eat a cheeseburger every day,
That's the problem, though. It tastes good.
It does, right? It doesn't make you feel good afterwards. Like, I don't think I ever feel good after a cheeseburger. And so I always remind people, like, think about what you feel like after you eat that food and what it does to your body. Like, I don't know. You know
what? One of the foods I've been eating lately, and it's interesting because I used to not eat meat at all. Liver.
Oh, I grew up watching my mom eat that stuff.
It's one of the most nutritious foods.
It?
It's not that I really like it. For anybody watching, and because liver doesn't really taste that good. You have to season it. It has to have it's super high in iron. Yeah. But it's one of the most nutritious foods in the world. And it's interesting because you think about the spiritual aspect, like pack hunters, the wolves, they hunt other animals. The alpha gets the liver.
Yeah.
Isn't it crazy? Isn't that like weird how that works?
It's really weird. I mean, I grew up watching my mom. I feel like the boomer generation, right, grew up eating that because my mom ate it all the time. And I tried it a few times, and I'll try anything, right? I'm a foodie. I love food. But, man, I could not get down with liver. Maybe if you put it in gravy or something. I don't know. I can't get down with it.
Do you like to cook?
I do. I love to cook. I did not learn, like, my grandmother's recipes at all. I regret it. I will always remember her food. But I feel like I'm building up my own style, right? And it's everything, right? It's not just Mexican or, like, Tex-Mex. It's everything. Like, I enjoy all kinds of food. So I try to, like, learn how to, like, I love New Orleans food. I make a mean jambalaya. So I do a bunch of different things because I like trying different things.
Yeah. How do you spend any free time?
Oh, man. It's funny. I was talking to my coworker today, and I told her how I accidentally dissed someone last night. I didn't get to go to a bar to go have a drink with them. She said, well, what were you doing? I was like, girl, I can get lost for hours in my garden. I was like, and it's not even like not watering. I was like, I just start looking at a plant and then there's an insect on it. And then that insect I've never seen before. I was like, it is just one of my favorite spaces to be.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't like to go anywhere anymore. Everybody's like, you never come out. I'm like, man, if you only understood Club Joe, like my garden, like that's the club for me. Like, and I'm not talking to nobody. I'm talking to bugs and my chickens and my dogs. I don't know. It's where, and maybe it's just a sign of getting older too, but man, it's the space I want to be.
But that's a beautiful thing because everyone deserves a safe space like that, right? A happy place, a place that takes you somewhere else, because like you talked about, stress is a killer, and you know, life can take us into some dark places too.
Hell yeah.
So we deserve some of that other stuff, the good stuff.
Yeah. And I think that's why I like being there, because I am a very high stress, high anxiety person, and that place just brings me down. Like I don't know.
We got a few seconds left. Closing words.
Man, I don't know. I hate being under pressure. Bye.
Thanks so much, folks. We'll see you next week. Much love to Jovanna. Follow her on social media. Wealth of Knowledge, OG Farmer. Gylan Jackson, you're the man. We'll see you next week.
Bye.